The Boston Bruins pretty much have one open spot in the top six forward group, but how's the bottom six going to shake out?
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked B. Today is Monday, September 9th, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine. It's free. It's available on your favorite podcast app, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Pocket Casts is what I use. It's also free on YouTube, so please do subscribe. Both the audio and video portions of the podcast on YouTube. You get some extra bonus shorts content as well when there is breaking news, something big that happens with our Boston Bruins. If you want to follow on social media, you can do so at Locked NHL Bruins. You can find me, my hockey thoughts, dad jokes at Ian C. McLaren. Today we are talking about the forward group as we approach training camp. 9 days until training camp begins. On Friday, we looked at the goaltending situation. Jeremy Swayman still unsigned. Can Eunice Korpisalo rebound? Is Brandon Busty an option to start in the NHL? Today, we'll talk about the forward group. And while there have been some subtractions, there's a couple additions that are pretty noteworthy, and one kind of still to be determined. One spot specifically in the top six, which is effectively already locked down. We already know 5 of the players who will be in the top 6 for the Boston Bruins when everybody is healthy. The number one line, you can pretty much Sharpie it in right now. Don't pencil it in because it's not going to be erased. It's going to be Pavel Zacha on the left wing, Elias Lindholm down the middle, and David Pastrnak on the right side. Pastrnak and Zacha have shown some good chemistry in the past. Zacha will move from his traditional center position to the wing where he has played before when David Krejci was around, and Lindholm will kind of step in as the David Krejci role in this one, perhaps with a bit more offensive upside than he showed last season as a member of the Calgary Flames and the Vancouver Canucks. He does have, point per game potential. More likely 70 points is probably his ceiling at this point, and that's very achievable when you are feeding David Pastrnak. And Zacha has some finish as well, and he put up a career high in points last season. So this should be the Bruins' most potent offensive line, but also defensively responsible, as Lindholm definitely brings some Krejci and Patrice Bergeron vibes as a former Selke Trophy finalist and perhaps a candidate to return to that echelon here with the Bruins in 2024-25. Now on the second line, talked last week about some concerns over Brad Marchand's health heading into training camp. He revealed that he underwent not 1, not 2, but 3 off-season procedures. I believe it was his elbow, his groin, and his abdomen. So he's a little tender in the middle areas right now, kind of slowly ramping things up. But we do know that when he's good to go, he'll be on the second line playing with Charlie Coyle. These two have developed some good chemistry over the past couple of years, really dating back to the playoff series in 2023 against the Florida Panthers, where Patrice Bergeron was injured, and those two played very well together, and it was a combo that stuck last season. Coyle putting up career-high numbers, while Marchand was still able to almost score 30 goals and had 69 points, I believe. The big question here is who plays on the right side on that line with Marchand and Coyle. My hope, my aspiration is for that spot to be taken over by Fabian Lysell. By all accounts, Fabian Lysell is ready to take the next step. He had a pretty good season last year. It did start off with him being called out a bit by Providence Bruins head coach Ryan Muganel for some perhaps ill-advised zone entries where he was going in 1-on-3. He's got all the offensive talent in the world. He's got the tools to be a scorer at any level in hockey. But his perhaps defensive responsibility or not trying to do it all by himself, that can come back and bite him sometimes. That did improve over the course of the season to the point where Don Sweeney said that had Lysell not been injured late last season, he would have been a call up for the Bruins down the stretch and in the playoffs. He does have 56 appearances last season, 15 goals. Maybe we'd like to see that a bit higher, but 35 assists for 50 points. He's shown some playmaking ability as well as that scoring acumen. Still, some questions about whether he can put it all together at the NHL level, and that's mostly because he hasn't been given that shot. On Dauber prospects, they write he missed significant time towards the end of the season, but he still put together a productive season with Providence, 15 goals, 35 assists. He experienced the expected increase in production from the season prior while playing in just 2 more games. While recognizing Lysell's production in the AHL, it is difficult to ignore that he has yet to be called up to the NHL even for a short stint. He's a prospect with middle six potential, and he's facing a crucial campaign in determining his future in Boston. Lysell still has first-line potential, according to Dauber prospects. And again, the fact that he has not yet made his NHL debut is more due to the fact that he was injured late last season than not having yet earned that role. Look, he's still very young. Still only 21 years old. He'll turn 22 in January. Came over from Vancouver to Providence. Those were his first years playing North American hockey. It's a transition for anyone, especially someone who is used to lighting it up over there and has to play a more of a two-way game, as the Boston Bruins expect from their players. So I have high hopes for Lysell. If he does not take it, well, there's the possibility that Morgan Geekie could play on the right side. There's the possibility that Trent Frederic could play his off wing as a natural center. He's been playing the left side on the third line for quite some time. Maybe he gets an increased role and takes over the Jake DeBrusk offside winger duties and getting more power play time, etc. Maybe Tyler Johnson, who signed that PTO, can jump in on that line and contribute alongside Marchand and Coyle as well. But for my money, I believe it should be Fabian Lysell who gets the first crack there. I'm not just saying that because I have him in 2 keeper fantasy leagues. I truly believe that he can excel alongside those 2 veterans who can bring him along, take him under their wings and help him to fly. Other candidates, again, Frederic, Geekie, maybe Justin Brazeau, maybe Matt Poitras goes up there and plays the wing while pushing Geekie down to third line center. It's going to be a fascinating battle in training camp, and I'm excited to see how that shakes out. And of course, whoever doesn't grab that second line right wing spot will be bumped down to the bottom 6, and there's quite a few players in the mix there. We'll discuss that as the podcast continues. Football is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And they have something a little different for you right now. Through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and you can get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with that YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. And if that's not enough, FanDuel also has something special for our listeners this weekend. Be sure to check out FanDuel's Profit Boost in the app and use it for FanDuel's Double Your Winnings all day Sunday, September 15th for pre-game moneyline bets. Profit Boost will be live starting Friday. View your account page now to learn more about your boost. FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. Thanks so much once again for making Locked On Bruins part of your day. For your next listen, enjoy the Locked On NHL podcast. Locked On NHL provides you with a national perspective on all things NHL each and every day, with national experts and local insight on every team in the league. It's available on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Alrighty, let's talk about the bottom six, where there will be quite a few new faces for the Boston Bruins and some faces that emerged last season as some bona fide NHLers. Right now, I think the fourth line is pretty much locked in with John Beecher down the middle, with Mark Kastelic, who was brought in by way of the Ottawa Senators, bring some grit, some toughness to the bottom six, and Max Jones, the newcomer. I think that line could have a great balance of toughness, defense, and some potential scoring pop as well. You have John Beecher streaking in there. Max Jones has some offensive upside. Kastelic kind of takes care of the dirty work, maybe gets in front of the net, does some disruption. I think that could really work. And John Beecher, of course, proved to be quite proficient in the faceoff circle, to the point where we questioned why he was taken out as a healthy scratch in the playoffs when some of his center counterparts weren't quite up to par in that area. So I think that fourth line pretty much well set, although it's rare that you have a fourth line that plays all 82 games together, any line really. So there is some room for movement and a healthy scratch here and there. The third line, I'd mentioned Trent Frederic is perhaps a possibility to go up to the second line, but he has proven to be very effective in that third line left wing role. Who his line mates will be is a big question. Will Matthew Poitras be able to pick up where he left off in a strong rookie campaign, a rather surprising rookie campaign before he was injured? And will he be slotted in as the third line center? Could he perhaps start up on the second line as the right winger so that it's lessening his defensive responsibilities and allowing him to continue to develop, grow, thrive, playing with those two veterans in Marchand and Coyle? Or do the Bruins think that he needs some added seasoning and perhaps they start him in the AHL? Look, the Bruins are always a team that uses those waiver wire considerations. He's a guy that would not require waivers to be sent down. So it's an easy thing to perhaps start him off in the AHL, let him find his game before throwing him back into the fire at the NHL level. That is a distinct possibility. Justin Brazeau really emerged last season as a viable option in the bottom six. He brings speed, size, and some scoring pop. So he's a candidate to play on the right side. Again, don't forget about Tyler Johnson, who was signed to a PTO. The Bruins don't really have, well, they do have the cap space at the moment with 8.6 remaining, but all, maybe even more than that, will be going towards our boy Jeremy Swayman if and when he signs. Other forward options include Riley Tufte, who was signed on July 1st. You have Patrick Brown, Vinny Lettieri, who are also still under contract, as well as some guys on the Providence roster who are looking to make the jump to the big club. You have Georgi Merkulov, of course. He's kind of at a disadvantage as a left-hand shot who's playing center. The Bruins have a bunch of guys who can play on the left side and down the middle already. Mark McLaughlin perhaps has more of a chance, being 25, more pro experience as a right-hand shot. But really, and again, Riley Tufte, but again, he's a left-hand shot. Maybe Brett Harrison, Riley Duran as a right-hand shot. I think it's Fabian Lysell who has the biggest chance of making the jump, and it will be guys like Tyler Johnson, Justin Brazeau, Mark Kastelic, Matt Poitras, John Beecher, Max Jones, maybe even Morgan Geekie fighting it out for those spots on the second line right wing and in the bottom six. It could be a fairly, good group for the Bruins here up front. You've obviously lost Jake DeBrusk. That's a huge hole to fill on that line with Marchand, Coyle. If you had added Lindholm and retained DeBrusk, that's a pretty nice looking top six. At the moment, there's a big hole to fill there alongside Marchand and Coyle. Maybe it's a lot to ask of Lysell to jump in there. That's maybe why you put a guy like Frederic, who's had more experience there, or a younger guy like Poitras, or a veteran like Johnson, or maybe a middle kind of guy like Max Jones who could thrive in a bigger role. But losing DeBrusk, losing Danton Heinen, James Van Riemsdyk is also kind of up in the air at the moment as an unsigned, unrestricted free agent. I'm still of the belief that they could kind of circle back on him once the Swayman contract situation is resolved, but maybe that ship sailed by adding Tyler Johnson to the mix here on that PTO instead of bringing Van Riemsdyk back on a PTO. So to sum up, there's that big spot, second line right wing, that is open and ready to be grabbed. And there's a lot of questions as to how the bottom six will shake out, whether someone who's penciled in there will go up to the second line instead of Lysell, and what that third scoring line is going to look like, or who could complement Trent Frederic there, whether it be Geekie, Poitras down the middle, maybe one of those guys playing on the wing, whether it's Justin Brazeau or Tyler Johnson, should he make the team. So quite a lot to be decided in training camp, maybe more than over the past few years, where things were pretty much set. And tomorrow on the podcast, we'll discuss the defense and what that will look like. Pretty well set there, and a pretty nice looking group there for the Boston Bruins. But today, as the podcast continues, we're going to take a look at the Boston Fleet, their new look logo, as the PWHL revealed team names and logos here on Monday morning. All right, a big shout out to the Boston PWHL team for revealing their name here on Monday, the Boston Fleet. And I'm quite a big fan of the name and the new look. The first thing that I saw when looking at the logo was the fact that it is a B with an anchor on the left side, and it really does bring a lot of Hartford Whalers vibes to the table. Let me share my screen for those of you who are watching on YouTube so that you can see exactly what I'm talking about. When you look at the Boston Fleet logo, you see that B with the anchor on the side. Turn that over, and you have what looks like an H with the whale fins, with the W. And someone pointed out on Twitter as well that there was a Binghamton Whalers AHL team that had a similar look. So I really hope that was intentional to kind of look back at that legacy of hockey in New England. They describe the logo look as as follows. Sailing towards victory. The forward-leaning shape of the logo evokes a sail catching wind, representing momentum and a relentless drive for success. It's anchored in heritage. The bold B combined with a sideways anchor symbolizes Boston's rich maritime history and the enduring strength, unity, and collective might of Boston's players and fans. I don't know how you can deny that there's a Hartford Whalers influence there as well. If it's not intentional, then, I mean, it's pretty darn close to that look for sure. Finally, you can see some waves in the logo, and those waves of resilience. It's a emblem that adds depth and texture, reflecting the dynamic energy of the ocean and the team's steadfast resilience. I really like this logo. I like the fleet. Of course, it reminds people of the fact that it used to be called the Fleet Center, where the Bruins played. But of course, it's more referring to Boston being on the coast and honoring that maritime heritage. Boston captain Hillary Knight appeared on ABC's Good Morning America alongside PWHL VP of Business Operations Amy Shear. Shear said, fans from day one told them they wanted conventional team names. The names need to be bold. The names need to be confident, need to be strong, and you better make sure they tie back to the city and the state, she said. We hope that we did that through these team names, and we can't wait to see our fans bring these names to life. Danielle Marmer, the GM of Boston Fleet, said they see on social media there's rumblings about the names, and it happened in every market. They weren't too worried about it, but whatever they ended up, they think the fans are going to get behind it, and all indications are so far that people are into it, and I like that a lot better than what was proposed, which was Boston Wicked. Was not a fan of that at all. The other teams are the Minnesota Frost, their logo kind of invoking Gatorade flavor / frozen vibes. The New York Sirens, which is pretty cool. They have like a vibrating look on the side. Ottawa Charge, which it looks kind of like the Cavaliers meets the Flames. Toronto Scepters, I love their color, kind of a royal blue and yellow. Montreal Victoire probably has the best logo of them all and one of the best names. I think they knocked it out of the park. But Boston Fleet, I really like, and wishing them all the best this season with this new look. All right, that's it for today's episode of Locked On Boston Bruins, my friends. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. No real update on Jeremy Swayman today, although I believe on a segment with TSN, Darren Dreger said things perhaps aren't imminent, but maybe closer than what it seems out on social media and in print. So hopefully something will get done this coming week so that there's no questions about what we will. Yeah, no questions about him not being a participant at training camp. Just seeing the Bruins tweeted out the fleet saying all aboard with the anchor. All fans of Boston hockey should be getting in on this. All right, that's it, friends. Please do subscribe if you have not already. Please do take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll talk to you again here on the next episode of Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Be sure to check out next the Locked On NHL podcast.